Hungary in the early 20th century was a cocktail of cultures, political upheavals, and artistic revolutions. Among those who challenged convention by moving to the forefront of the avant-garde was Bela Kádár, a genius whose name had been buried under a layer of oblivion for decades. Born into a poor Jewish family in Budapest under the name Bela Klug, he not only changed his surname, but also rewrote his own destiny. From a self-taught locksmith to an artist whose work was exhibited in New York, Berlin, and London, his life is an epic saga of struggle. Between expressionism and Art Deco, between recognition and persecution, between the loss of his family in the crucible of the Holocaust and his unquenchable creative energy. Have you ever seen his paintings? For example, Mother and Child or Constructive City. They seem to be alive, full of movement, light, and depth. Looking at them, it seems that there is something more than just colors and shapes behind them. In this video, we will delve into the world of Bela Kádár. We will learn about his life, explore his work, and try to understand what makes his paintings so special. We are going to travel through time, where each brushstroke is a code, and deciphering it, we will understand how one artist could become the voice of an entire era. There is more than art ahead. Ahead is a life engraved on canvas. Imagine Budapest at the end of the 19th century, a city bustling with life, with narrow streets crowded with merchants, craftsmen, and artisans, and the aroma of baked goods and hot coffee in the air. It was here, in a Jewish family where poverty was commonplace and dreams of art seemed unattainable, that Bela Kádár was born on June 14, 1877. His real name was Klug. The future artist's parents, who lived in modest conditions, could hardly imagine that their son would ever become famous in the art world. Bela's childhood was not easy. At an early age, he faced hardship and the need to work. After graduating from elementary school, he began to learn the trade of a locksmith, a profession that guaranteed at least some stability. But how can you stop a person who sees the world through the prism of colors, lines, and shapes? Already at the age of 20, he abandoned stability and set off on foot across Europe, from Munich to Paris. These travels became universities for him. It was there that he discovered Impressionism, Secessionism, and Expressionism, which later intertwined in his style. In 1899, Bela entered the Budapest School of Industrial Drawing. Later, he continued his studies at the Mintridge under the direction of Bela, and then at free schools in Munich and Budapest. He eagerly absorbed knowledge, honed his technique, and searched for his own style. The beginning of his career was not brilliant, but he persevered in his goal. In 1906, Kádár made his debut at exhibitions at the Kunsthal and the National Salon. His works were bold experiments with form, color, and composition. Miklos Rose, the founder of the Kunsthal, played an important role in his development. It was he who supported the young artist, giving him the opportunity to exhibit and work. Thus, gradually, his name began to appear among Hungarian artists. The year 1912 became a landmark for Kádár. He managed to get his own studio at the Századok Street Artists Center and painted the ceiling of the Hungarian Theater in Budapest. This success was an important step forward. His style developed, approaching the avant-garde. Was this stage an artistic rebellion? In my opinion, yes. His rejection of academic canons in favor of experimenting with color and form demonstrates his courage. For example, the aforementioned frescoes for the Hungarian Theater, which were destroyed later, were an attempt to combine monumentalism with expression. But then the year 1914 comes. The First World War breaks out, an event that changes the lives of millions of people. Kádár voluntarily goes to the front. This step is difficult to evaluate unequivocally. On the one hand, it was a patriotic impulse. On the other, a break in his career, which was just beginning to gain momentum. But even during the war, he remained an artist. His works demonstrate how his traumatic experience melted into expressionistic images, tense, fragmented, filled with drama. For him, the war was both a destroyer and a catalyst. It took away his time, but gave him new themes. In 1918, Bela was able to return to art. His solo exhibitions at the Ernst Museum and the Kunsthal were a real triumph. His paintings began to arouse interest not only in Hungary but also abroad. After the war, the art world of Europe was full of new ideas. The young artist felt the need for movement, for change. In 1921, he collaborated with the magazine Der Sturm, which was a real center of the European avant-garde. Thanks to his connections with the editor Gerwart Walden, Kádár was able to exhibit in Berlin. His works amaze viewers. They are bright, expressive, and full of energy. He is at the peak of his career. His works have been compared to Chagall. Both combined folklore motifs with expressionistic deformation. And the artist's geometric forms caused a sensation because they combined Hungarian identity with the cosmopolitan avant-garde. He took part in international exhibitions, and the American press admired his style, with art critics noting his unique combination of expressionism, impressionism, and Art Deco. But peaceful life did not last long. The Second World War brought a new tragedy. Kádár, a Jew by birth, was forced to hide in the Budapest ghetto. He survived the Holocaust, but his wife and 2 sons died. This was a terrible blow from which it was impossible to fully recover. After the war, Bela Kádár continued to paint, but his work faded into the background. In the 1950s, he was forgotten. Few people remembered his works, and the art world began to move in new directions. He died alone on January 22, 1956. His name may have disappeared from history, but his talent cannot be buried. Already in 1971, his first memorial exhibition was held at the Hungarian National Gallery. And in the 21st century, interest in him is only growing. Bela Kádár is an example of an artist who lived through his era twice. First as an avant-garde artist, then as a victim of historical circumstances. His life resembles a labyrinth, where every turn is a choice between art and survival. Have you ever wondered how an artist finds his or her style? What inspires them? Is it a long path of trial and error, or perhaps an instant epiphany? For Bela Kádár, the path to his own artistic voice was long and difficult. In his youth, he was attracted to Impressionism. He studied the play of light and shadows, looking for the harmony of colors. The influences of the Viennese Secession added sophistication and decorativeness. After a trip to Berlin in 1912, he became interested in Expressionism and Futurism. His works radiate a strange combination of dynamics and tranquility. They seem to be alive, vibrating with emotions conveyed through color, lines, and symbols. You know, his style is often compared to the work of Marc Chagall. And indeed, both of them have fairy tales, whimsical plots, and a play with perspective. But Kádár's style is also influenced by German Expressionism and the Nobby's group. This is an interesting mixture that made his art unique. His first paintings were full of experiments. They did not yet have the geometric clarity that would appear later, but they already showed a desire to move away from realism. He was looking for a way to convey not just images, but their emotional essence. The painting Ecstasy is an emotional explosion. It shows how expressive his language of form and color was. After the First World War, the art world of Europe was boiling with new ideas. Kádár felt that his style needed to change. He began to actively experiment with geometric shapes, which is especially noticeable in his works. During this period, the paintings become brighter, more symbolic. He combines Cubism, Expressionism, and adds notes of Art Deco. His works become more refined and smooth. He refers to the motifs of female beauty, music, and theater. One of the most striking examples of this period is Girl with a Guitar. This is not just a portrait of a woman, but a symbol of the rhythm of life, where music and color merge in harmony. Similarly, Mother and Child is no longer about expressive flashes, but about deep lyricism and tenderness. After the Second World War, Kádár seems to return to his roots, but with a new experience. His later works become more decorative, combining all the previous stages of his work. He sought a balance between the emotionality of Expressionism and the harmony of Art Deco. Color remains his main weapon. Looking at his paintings today, it is hard to say that they were created almost 100 years ago. They are bold, bright, innovative. What do you think about artists changing their style? Is it important to keep your original style, or should art change with life? Let us know in the comments. When we talk about art, it is important to understand the era in which the artist lived and worked. After all, the style, themes, even the choice of colors are a reflection not only of the artist's personality, but also of the spirit of his or her time. Bela Kádár lived in a period of rapid change, 2 world wars, revolutions, the flourishing and demise of artistic movements, and the struggle between different artistic ideologies. His work is a mirror of these events. At the beginning of the 20th century, Hungary was going through a period of political and cultural transformation. The country was part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, which was on the verge of collapse. Artists were looking for new ways to express their ideas, reflecting the general mood of change and revolution. It was at this time that the Hungarian avant-garde emerged, which developed under the influence of European trends such as expressionism, cubism, futurism, and dadaism. Artists sought to break with tradition, create new forms, and change the very perception of art. Kádár was at the center of these events. However, he did not always share the radical ideas of his colleagues. For example, the Hungarian magazine MA, published by Lajos Kásik, promoted constructivism art based on strict forms and mathematical precision. This was alien to Kádár. He believed that art should remain emotional, close to human experience. His views were closer to the expressionists, especially to Marc Chagall. During this period, he collaborated with the artist Hugo Schaber and the Manifesto Group, who offered an alternative view of art. They experimented, but did not abandon the depiction of the real world. In the 1920s, Kádár entered the international arena. His work was no longer limited to Hungary. He met Gerhard Walden, the founder of the Berlin Galerie der Sturm. This gallery was the center of the European avant-garde, where Marc Chagall, Franz Marc, Vasily Kandinsky, and Paul Klee exhibited. Imagine how important it was for the artist to get a chance to exhibit alongside such names. In 1923, Kádár had a solo exhibition at Der Sturm, followed by several more group exhibitions. His style attracts viewers, bright colors, dynamic compositions, symbolism. His next big breakthrough came in New York. In 1927, his works were presented at the Brooklyn Museum at the International Exhibition of Modern Art. Kádár even spent a year in the United States studying American culture. In 1932, he was talked about in Great Britain. His paintings appeared on the pages of the art magazine The Studio. His fame was growing. He is no longer just a Hungarian artist. He is a part of European art. One of the most interesting features of Kádár's work is his ability to change his style. He did not stay within one direction, but combined different trends. His early works are expressionism and symbolism, a lot of emotions, contrasting colors. Then in the 1920s, he experimented with geometrization, cubism, and sometimes even futurism. The 1930s were marked by the transition to Art Deco and neoclassicism, calmer colors and more elegant forms. He seemed to be adjusting to historical changes, catching the spirit of the times. After the war, Kádár tried to return to creativity. He even published a book of illustrations dedicated to the horrors committed by the Nazis. But after such losses, it was difficult to return to the life he had before. He worked for some time, but his name gradually disappeared from the art scene. In the 1950s, his works no longer aroused the same admiration. But art does not forget its creators. In 1971, the first memorial exhibition was held at the Hungarian National Gallery. In 2002, the Muterum Gallery collected 150 of his works. In 2003, in London at the Ben Uri Gallery, people started talking about Kádár again. The true value of an artist is often revealed only after his or her death. Some artists bathe in glory during their lifetime, while others, like Bela Kádár, remain in the shadows for a long time. But talent cannot be buried forever. Today, his works are exhibited in the most prestigious galleries, and collectors dream of having at least one of his paintings. But let's understand, why did this happen? Why was the artist who worked at the center of the European avant-garde forgotten in the 1950s and only began to be rethought a decade later? After the Second World War, European art changed dramatically. The avant-garde, which had been revolutionary in the 1920s and 30s, was now giving way to new movements, abstract expressionism and minimalism. Old heroes were becoming the past. Hungary, which was under Soviet influence, had its own views on art. Socialist realism left no room for expressionism and avant-garde explorations. Kádár's works no longer fit into the new ideology. His paintings gathered dust in museum collections, and his name almost disappeared from history. But art always finds its way. In 1971, after the first memorial exhibition of Bela Kádár at the Hungarian National Gallery, the first step was taken to return his name to the cultural space. And in the 21st century, interest in him grew. Kádár's works are in museums and private collections around the world and appear at major auctions. Just imagine, his paintings were once forgotten in museum archives, and now they are worth tens of thousands of dollars. Art historians have also not ignored Kádár's work. They study, analyze, and try to unravel hidden symbols in the context of European modernism. The artist was not afraid to experiment, from pastel delicate paintings to geometric abstractions, and survived wars, losses, and oblivion, but his art remained eternal. He can be put on a par with Marc Chagall, Franz Marc, and Paul Klee. Today, he is part of the world's artistic heritage. Thank you for spending this time with me, discovering the world of Bela Kádár. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it and share in the comments which painting impressed you the most. This is the best gratitude and incentive for me to make new videos about artists you should know. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to the channel. There will be many more interesting paintings and stories to come. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.